January 12, 1945. The frozen expanse of East Prussia stretched endlessly beneath a steel-gray sky. Snow whipping sideways across trenches where German soldiers huddled, their breaths rising in clouds that vanished into the bitter wind. Artillery booms echoing like rolling thunder across the desolate landscape, shaking the frozen ground under boots encrusted with ice, while armored columns of panzer divisions lurched forward, tracks carving deep furrows into the snow as engines growled, and smoke curled into the gray morning, mingling with the scent of cordite and the iron temps of blood from the wounded left in craters. Commanders poring over maps by candlelight, eyes scanning for any sign of Soviet movement, aware that failure could mean total annihilation. While beyond the trenches, the Red Army's lines gleamed like a dark, unyielding wall, patient and disciplined, awaiting the last desperate German thrust that would determine the fate of the Eastern Front. And yet the men pressed on under orders, driven by duty, discipline, and the haunting shadow of impending collapse. Late 1944 had seen the Eastern Front unravel, with Army Group centers stretched thin, divisions under strength supply lines disrupted by partisan activity and constant Soviet reconnaissance. Raw conscripts thrown alongside veterans of Kursk, Lenin in prior campaigns, many undertrained, fatigued, and already aware of the inexorable Soviet advance. German High Command, desperate to regain initiative, devised a series of limited offensives designed not to secure victory but to delay the Red Army and stabilize the collapsing front. Concentrating forces along narrow sectors, massing panzer divisions, artillery, and engineers across frozen rivers, forests, and snow-laden plains, while fuel shortages, mechanical failures, and communication disruptions foreshadowed attrition, making every maneuver a calculated risk. Soldiers trudged through ankle-deep snow under relentless artillery bombardments. Frostbite gnawed at extremities, malnutrition sapped strength, and the psychological strain of knowing that the war was nearly lost weighed heavily on every man. Yet camaraderie and training kept formations cohesive as platoons advanced in waves, relying on one another to survive amidst the chaos. Civilians, meanwhile, fled towns like Kingsburg and Danzig. Evacuations, chaotic under bombardment, roads clogged with refugees, homes abandoned, and families exposed to the harsh winter, while the landscape became a ghostly tableau of wars. Machinery grinding across civilization. Commanders such as Field Marshal Model and General von Kluge balanced their assessments with rigid directives from Hitler, often conflicting, forcing improvisation in the field and a constant tension between strategic reality and ideological insistence. On January 15, 1945, dawn broke over East Prussia, muted and gray, as German artillery unleashed barrages along a narrow sector, shaking the earth, flattening trees, and sending columns of smoke spiraling into the air, while infantry advanced in synchronized waves, armored vehicles attempting to punch through Soviet forward positions, engineers clearing mines and obstacles under the bitter cold. And communications crackled intermittently across radios, filled with static and the occasional, urgent report from forward units. The initial gains were uneven, slowed by entrenched Soviet resistance, mines, anti-tank obstacles, and blinding weather. Yet soldiers advanced, gripping rifles, bayonets fixed, boots crunching snow, faces etched with resolve and fear, every step a testament to human endurance under fire. Soviet forces, anticipating the German offensive, responded with precision, deploying layered defensive belts, mobile reserves, and coordinated counterattacks, artillery barrages, targeting exposed German columns, T-34 tanks, maneuvering to flank positions, and infantry entrenched in frozen foxholes, repelling assaults with disciplined fire. Every advance, every ridge captured by German units was contested, often reversed by sudden counterattacks, while reconnaissance reports and intelligence allowed Soviet commanders like Zhukov and Rokossovsky to adjust rapidly, maintaining operational depth and exploiting the environmental advantages of snow, ice, and winter concealment. By midday, German advances were slowed, tanks immobilized, infantry fatigued and isolated, and the command structure strained under conflicting orders and collapsing communication lines. Yet officers attempted to maintain cohesion, reorganizing units, rationing ammunition, and issuing orders that demanded courage in the face of near impossible circumstances. Soldiers endured frostbite, exhaustion, hunger, and fear, witnessing comrades fall to artillery, small arms, and the harsh winter itself, while engineers worked tirelessly to repair bridges, clear debris, and maintain the meager supply routes critical for sustaining the offensive. Human endurance and tactical improvisation were taxed to the limit, with platoons capturing forward positions only to be pushed back, tank crews improvising maneuvers under fire, officers issuing split-second decisions to hold or retreat, all while civilians navigated collapsing towns, destroyed infrastructure, and the ever-present threat of bombardment. The battle continued into January 16th, the bitter wind unrelenting, snow and ice slowing armored and infantry movements alike. German forces stretched thin and fragmented, facing renewed Soviet counterattacks with artillery and rocket fire raining down, flanking units encircled, and reserves arriving at decisive points to exploit weaknesses. Despite sporadic Luftwaffe support and disparate reorganization by commanders, the offensive faltered. Mobility was constrained, coordination broke down, and casualties mounted at an unsustainable rate. Soldiers, cold, wounded, and exhausted, struggled through snow and mud, often losing vehicles, weapons, and comrades, while command posts attempted to maintain some semblance of operational control. The human dimension of suffering was stark, as men fought not only the enemy but the bitter environment and the psychological weight of imminent defeat. Civilians endured the destruction of homes, evacuation through frozen roads, and the terror of battle moving inexorably through towns. By nightfall, the offensive had stalled definitively. German units in disarray, morale shattered, and strategic initiative passed completely to the Red Army, whose methodical advance and disciplined counterattacks showcased the operational maturity, combined arms, coordination, and winter adaptability of Soviet forces. Immediate consequences were catastrophic. Tens of thousands of German soldiers killed, wounded, or captured. Entire divisions rendered combat ineffective. Armored units destroyed or immobilized. Artillery emplacements decimated, and survivors recounting bitter frost, exhaustion, and psychological collapse. Meanwhile, Soviet forces advanced, capturing towns, securing supply lines, and reinforcing operational momentum, while historians note that this failure signified the Wehrmacht's final loss of offensive capability on the Eastern Front. Technological and logistical factors underscored the outcome. German mechanized formations, though sophisticated, failed under fuel shortages, mechanical unreliability, and terrain obstacles, whereas Soviet combined arms coordination, robust supply lines, and disciplined execution ensured resilience and superiority, demonstrating that ingenuity alone could not overcome operational overextension or inadequate preparation. Civilians bore immense human cost, enduring destruction of homes, evacuation, chaos, and the trauma of displacement, leaving long-lasting societal scars. Strategically, Germany was forced into defensive operations along rivers, forests, and urban strongpoints, improvising fortifications while Soviet advances pressed relentlessly westward, reshaping the European balance of power and accelerating the march toward Berlin. The offensive's failure also highlighted doctrinal lessons. Mechanized units require secure supply lines, coordinated combined arms, operations, and adaptability to environmental conditions, while tactical proficiency, without strategic depth, can lead to collapse. Morale and leadership challenges compounded human suffering. German commanders contended with impossible orders and depleted forces. Soldiers bore physical and psychological strain, and civilians experienced a disruption of entire communities, illustrating the intersection of human, operational, and moral dimensions of warfare. Ultimately, Germany's final Eastern Front offensive